Hello, I'm Daniel with Recovery Central here in Washington, Indiana, and I'm here to talk about the local drug and alcohol use issues. And I'm attempting to answer the question, what makes the drug and alcohol use problem in Daviess County such a high priority? And I believe part of the answer to this question involves the state of Indiana as a whole. The drug and alcohol problem is a priority in Daviess County, in part because it is a priority in the state of Indiana. And we need to know more about the environment of Indiana, how the Indiana environment shapes the Daviess County environment, which can also impact recovery from substance use disorders. And we've seen significant developments in the last 5 or 6 years throughout our society in regard to substance use. In Indiana, for example, much of the news, and there has been a lot of news about rural Indiana counties, in particular, in 2015, Scott County, Indiana, made the map with an HIV outbreak, which was reported to be one of the fastest spreading HIV outbreaks recorded in the US since the inception of the HIV disease. And some of the information that has circulated has also said that there were about 164 new HIV cases in Scott County in just a 2-month period. I don't have all the official information, but certainly Scott County, Indiana made the national map with that outbreak regarding IV use and the opioid Opana. We also can look at Montgomery County, which is around Crawfordsville, Indiana, where in 2016, Montgomery County became the 9th highest of all 92 Indiana counties for drug overdose deaths. And according to WRTV, you could trace the roots of that county's heroin problem to Indianapolis. And I also attended a symposium in February of 2018 for the state of Indiana, specifically for city and municipal leaders, where I attended with then Mayor Joe Wellman from Washington. And the presentations in that symposium in February of 18, one of them was from Montgomery County, where one report included that there was a billboard in the last couple of years that stated, we don't want to talk about it. If we talk about it, we might have to do something. And as the report, as I recall it, one of the members from Montgomery County who was explaining that shared that while that billboard did stir up quite a bit of emotion, she said it may have also been necessary to break the silence, to get the county talking about that issue. And I hope we can understand how this kind of discussion really does require somebody who's got the balls to say the right thing. And it might not always be pleasant, but for us to move forward, we have to take a hard look at this issue. And I believe this is also true in Daviess County. As far as the state of Indiana as a whole, we have a few statistics. I'm not giving you a whole lot, but we do know, for example, that drug overdoses in Indiana have nearly doubled since 2010, reaching 1,809 in 2017. We know that approximately 4,000 Hoosiers have died from opioids in the last decade. We also know that more Hoosiers now die from drug overdoses than from car crashes. And Indiana's drug-induced mortality rate actually quadrupled between 2000 and 2014. These are just a few of the Indiana statistics. I think we should also know that the state of Indiana has actually been among the top 10 worst states in the nation for drug use problems. In 2019, Indiana was ranked the 7th worst in the nation for drug and alcohol use. By 2020, there may have been a slight improvement. Indiana was ranked 10th of all the states in the nation. And there is certainly more to this discussion, but certainly the substance use problem has been a priority for the whole state of Indiana. And we can be sure that it's a priority for Daviess County as well. I would also share something regarding the city of Indianapolis, a documentary that came out recently called Under the Bridge. Now, if we understand that part of this discussion is about the criminalization of drug and alcohol use problems. This means that by criminalizing, we put the wrong focus on the drug and alcohol problems. It might suggest that we can just arrest our way out of this problem, which we cannot. And related to the criminalization of drug and alcohol, we can talk about the criminalization of homelessness, which is the subtitle of this documentary regarding what happened in Indianapolis in 2013. The documentary calls attention to the way city leaders responded to an issue involving homeless people. The documentary reported that of the 15 largest cities in the US, that Indianapolis is the only city that spent no state, local, or public funding directly on homeless shelters or homeless services. We learned that Julia Fiddler, the grants manager for the city, had found that cutting arrests, ER visits, and other costs would save Indianapolis $9 to $15 million. One proposal that had been brought up is something called COT Force, which considers the cost of arresting and putting homeless people in jail compared to other appropriate services that would offer a better way of dealing with the entire homelessness issue. And according to the documentary, the city of Indianapolis refused to fund something that could have saved them millions of dollars, which the research indicated it would. We also learned Karen Thornburg of Midtown Mental Health on that documentary said she talked with city leaders who dismissed the importance of that kind of program. Now, what the city leaders did not dismiss was downtown development to the tune of $81 million, 18 of that 81 million coming from the city of Indianapolis. And what they did was to add luxury apartments, housing projects, and other things, and a $6 million cricket building. Now, this was taken by many as a slap in the face, not just on homeless people, but for anyone who expected their city leaders to provide leadership for the greater good, not just to serve the elites. And so the primary focus of the documentary was on a particular gathering of homeless people under a bridge near downtown, hence the name Under the Bridge. And the claim in the documentary is that the city leaders could not find any legal way to make those homeless people relocate. And so they concocted a plan to do some kind of maintenance or construction on that particular bridge, and that required those homeless people to move. The comment was made in that same documentary, the people here just don't know how to speak out. They just go along to get along. Well, not being the Hoosier historian with any legal authority, I am not here to offer any allegations or any indictments. I just think we need to know that we are now seeing a game-changing development in Indianapolis in regard to criminal justice issues there. It appears that since the year 2013, things have begun to change. We can look at a potential timeline here. And again, I have very little information so far, but in 2013, that's when the documentary alleged that there were illegal actions by the city against homeless people. The documentary did not come out until 2017, and yet by 2016, the Criminal Justice Reform Task Force was reviewing and investigating Indianapolis criminal justice system and making recommendations to the Criminal Justice Planning Council, so that when we come to the current year, 2021, it was in January of 2021 that Indianapolis saw the beginning of a building of a new community justice campus, as they're calling it. And this is the structure. I do not know for certain how far along that project is. It looks like this is either what it looks like or what it soon will look like. And the plan for this community justice center is that it would be a criminal justice campus with assessment and intervention services to address mental health and addiction services and other social services. That it would also provide a toolbox for police officers, social service providers, and criminal justice facilities, with the idea of keeping non-violent individuals with mental health and addiction issues out of jail. Would also be post-arrest services with additional identification and assessment of offenders who are in need of mental health or other social services. The Community Justice Campus is proposing that it cultivate a culture of innovation and improvement of criminal justice services, and that it should also operate with transparency, accountability, and credibility, as well as stronger relationships between the community and criminal justice partners. And we can also go back to the year 2016 in regard to a national development. And this was the U.S. Surgeon General's report, Facing Addiction in America, in 2016. And as we might all know, that in the following year, as the Trump administration came in and a new Surgeon General stepped in, Dr. Jerome Adams, who also happened to be from Indiana. Dr. Adams was the Surgeon General of Indiana before he became the U.S. Surgeon General. And Dr. Adams actually looked at the same report from his predecessor and continued to march. And it was Dr. Adams who pushed out the naloxone kits, wanting to make these naloxone kits for opioid emergencies, overdose emergencies, make these life-saving kits available in every county of the nation. I don't know how all that went, but we do know that right here in Daviess County, we have some of those kits in public places. I believe the library. I'm not sure where else they might be, but those kits are becoming more available locally. And it gives us reason to understand that when the U.S. Surgeon General's report stated, it is time to change how we as a society address alcohol and drug misuse and substance use disorders, that what was coming into existence was really a bipartisan effort, a new bipartisan effort to address this substance use crisis as we've known it for decades in our nation. And the same report also speaks of ongoing efforts to reform healthcare and criminal justice systems that create new opportunities to increase access to prevention and treatment services. And this actually brings us now to our own county, to Daviess County, because when you understand the Surgeon General's report, it is clear that what is being given to Daviess County today in the form of $1 million over the next 4 years, it certainly is very much in keeping with the U.S. Surgeon General's vision from 5 years ago when it came out. And so here in Daviess County, we actually have a new consortium that is called the Daviess Advances Recovery Access Consortium. A brilliant title. All you have to do is say Derek, and you can remember it. Just think of Derek, and you'll think of Daviess Access Recovery. Yeah, well, it might not be real easy to remember, but it's a great consortium. I mean, they're doing really good things, or beginning to do some very good things for Daviess County. We're working together with agencies, hospitals are working together, Daviess Community, as well as Good Samaritan, IU and Purdue University Extension Office are part of this effort, and other agencies coming together to build new structure here in Daviess County to better address our local drug and alcohol use problems. When we think of Derek and we think of this grant, this $1 million, we probably should be thinking of a recovery hub, which is what the grant application describes for the use of these funds. And a recovery hub is a way of structuring and making our substance use disorder services, treatment, recovery services, all that better known throughout the county, and also to have a place where people can go and have immediate access to treatment and to other resources as needed in recovery. There will also be a development of a recovery community and something we would call an RCO, Recovery Community Organization. As a matter of fact, in Daviess County already, we have a new organization that is called Real Recovery. The letters in the word real stand for Reaching Every Addict with Life. This is already a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, recognized at the national level. This RCO, Real Recovery, was already in place before we realized we had some grant funding coming. And so Real Recovery is already working to engage more people in recovery. They have started a boxing club on Friday evenings for teens, people under 18, or 18 and under, I guess, and other things that are being done in the interest of improving the housing available, improving access to jobs, and being an advocate for people who are in recovery. And the Real Recovery Board is already composed of people. The majority of that board are, in fact, people who are themselves in long-term recovery. And this is really just the beginning, but it's a very important beginning. And the fact of the matter is that before the dollars were even very available to our county, some of the passion that was needed was already at work. And we already have Real Recovery, and now we will continue to see more development. And this will mean leadership by people who are themselves in recovery, even leadership by people who have been arrested, people who have felonies on their records, people who have known the incarceration of substance use disorders. And under that kind of leadership, we can build here in Daviess County a more recovery-friendly environment. And by recovery-friendly environment, we are talking about an environment that respects people in recovery, respects their families, their friends, and even those who are in need of services. We will have a population dedicated, educated, and open to discussion on ending the stigma, which is to say discrimination against people with substance use problems. We'd also increase empathy with people who face the challenges with drug and alcohol use and other aspects that make us more awake, more alert, and more supportive of recovery here in Daviess County. I would also say that here at Recovery Central, this means that we want more dialogue, and we're inviting dialogue which means we're inviting different perspectives. We believe that it's important for us to talk about this matter and how Daviess County might change in a way that does make things better by the way of reducing substance use problems, increasing recovery from substance use, and also respecting a variety of interpretations of how recovery works. We're not just pushing one particular philosophy of recovery. We are listening to those who are in recovery, and we are encouraging more of what they are doing that they find to be useful. We also expect we will encounter some cynicism. The cynics will say a lot of things. One might be that, well, now the people in that big city of Indianapolis that were stigmatizing homeless people, we just got to realize the city's going to do what the city wants to do. Where there's power, they're going to use that power for themselves, not for the greater good. And that's what the cynic says. Or the Surgeon General doesn't really have that much authority to change the way our entire nation addresses alcohol and drug use issues. The Surgeon General doesn't have that much authority. I mean, the Surgeon General is just a doctor at the top of the food chain. So on and on they go. Some will say, well, this is well and good, but if you look at what's happening in Indianapolis, Daviess County is an entirely different ballgame. That isn't going to happen in Daviess County. And they're going to go on and on. But we know that underneath all that cynicism are fears, fear of change, fear of conflict, fear of finding out something I don't want to find out, whatever that might be. And the arguments go on and on. We can also lose sight of real ethics. And we can find ourselves just caving in to whatever power wants to do. And so whenever a weaker party complains against those in power, it is natural that we don't really listen to that weaker party and side with the weaker party because we want to stay on the side of power. So it's very natural for people to promote injustice. It's a very natural thing. We don't really question complaints. We don't really hold our government accountable, at least not very much. And so it might seem as though listening to the weaker party would require us to sort through a lot of facts, which would just be too much work. But we need to know how to welcome other perspectives, more creative perspectives, more talented and productive voices to better serve our community. And we need to allow our community to discover better answers. And so we are asking, what if more people decide to face these concerns for what they are and find new will and strength to resolve these problems together?